Choose the correct answer from the options given below. A, B, A, B, C, B, C, D. Oh my god, this is too difficult and too lengthy to read actually. I'm just getting confused. Right? Wrong. In today's video, we'll be teaching you how to answer such lengthy questions, statement-based questions correctly. Hello everyone, welcome to Score Settled. Due to limited time that is there in such MCQ based questions or examinations, we find it lethargic or even time consuming to read through such lengthy statements, and in a hurry we tend to give wrong answers, right? But in today's video we'll be teaching you how to answer such questions well in time, correctly and strategically, because every question requires a strategy. So let's begin. Now, first question is that which of the following are true pertaining to the problems of asymmetric information? So true. First is that sellers can deal with the problem of asymmetric information by sending buyers signal about the quality of product. Yes, that's what advertisements or marketing is all about. So this statement is true. So now your next step should be that I have to see the option where A should definitely be there. Okay, so A is there in 1, A is there in 2, but it is not there in 3. So I can strike it out, and A is there in 4. Okay, let's just filter out more. B, if a seller of a product has better information about its quality than buyer, then bad products tend to drive good products out of the market. This is true. Market for lemons, remember? Right? So market for lemons, this statement is true. So B should also be there. B is there in 1, 2 and 4. Next statement. According to the efficiency wage theory, a wage lower than the competitive wage increases worker productivity by discouraging workers from shirking on the job. No, wage higher than the competitive wage, that is what encourages. A wage lower than the competitive wage increases, it does not increase worker productivity, it decreases rather. Workers don't feel like working. So this statement is actually false, right? So C should not be there. So we can strike out 2. Okay, now adverse selection arises because of asymmetric information in the insurance market. That is definitely true, right? So D is a correct market, principal agent problem. Okay, so this is true. D should also be there. Now A, B, D should be there. So that is the case only in option 4, which is the answer. So I can stop here without even reading the 5th statement. But if I have time, why not go about it just to make myself completely sure. So owners can avoid principal agent problem by designing contracts that give their agents incentive to perform better. That is true. This is also true. So we can strike out option 1. So the strategy here is read the first statement and filter out the options. Then the second statement, filter out the options. That's the strategy we are going to adopt through all such questions. Okay, but the very important condition here is that your basics should be very strong, and that's what we focus a lot in Economics Harbor. We are very much particular about the basics, that your basics should be clear. Once they are clear, then everything seems to be a piece of cake. Okay, next question. Which of the following are true regarding the outcome of a consumer's optimization process? The first statement is that marginal utility per rupee spent on each good is the same. The law of equimarginal utility. Right? Equimarginal utility. True. A statement is true. So A is there in all the 4 options. Moving on. The marginal rate of substitution between goods is equal to the ratio of the prices between the goods. This statement is also true, right? So B is also right. So we can strike out now, because B is right, we can strike out options 1 and options 2. right? Then the consumer reaches the highest indifference curve in the indifference map? No. The tangency condition is the important one. The tangency between your indifference curve and your budget line, not at what level is your indifference curve, right? So maximization, for utility maximization, this tangency condition is more important. So this statement is wrong, right? Then the consumer indifference curve is tangent to his or her budget line. Yes, this statement is true. From utility point of view, consumer is indifferent between any 2 points on the budget line? No, rather any 2 points on the indifference curve. The individual or the consumer is indifferent between 2 points on the indifference curves and not on the budget line. So this statement is false. So 3 is the right answer in this case, right? Next question. According to classical economics, an increase in government spending leads to a shift in the demand for loanable funds to the right. That is true, right? But what will happen? Increase in the borrowing requirement of the government, right? This will increase the interest rate. Okay? This will increase the interest rate, which will make loans or investments more expensive, right? And this will lead to crowding out. So this is the process, right? So first statement is right. We can strike out option 4 here. Decline in the interest rate? No, there will be an increase in the interest rate. So B is false. So we can strike out options with B. So first and third gone. So the answer is 2. See, by just reading statements A and B, we've got our answer here, right? But why was it that easy? Because we knew the basics, right? We knew these policy strategy, we knew this kind of a process, and that's why we could answer it, these kind of questions, or we could answer this question in no time. Okay, let's just go through other statements. Increase in investments? No, that will be a decrease in investment, because now investments or borrowings have become more expensive, and there is an inverse relationship between your interest rate and the investment level. Increase in saving equal to decline in consumption? That is true, because once this interest rate increases, people tend to save more rather than consume more. So this statement is true. Decrease in investment and consumption, that balances the increase in government spending. This is also true. Okay. Next question. Which of the following are the effects of increase in government spending in ISLM framework in a closed economy? So if there is an increase in government spending, I know that my IS curve will shift rightwards. Okay. So as a result, my income will increase and the interest rate will also increase. Okay, so this is the basic, and on this basis we are going to answer this question. So first statement, increase in income by multiply times the government expenditure. Yes, the income is increasing, so A is right. Filter out the options. In the very first statement itself, we've got our answer here. A, B and C only, option 3, right? So that is why basics plus strategy, very important in such MCQs. Okay, let's go through other statements also. Shift in IS curve to the right, which is happening, leading to disequilibrium in money market at a given level of interest rate. That is true, right? So B is also right. Quantity of money demand will be higher. Yes, quantity of money, because there will be more transactions that will be taking place because of increased income. Once the income increases, number of transactions also increase. People tend to spend more, isn't it? So C is also right. Interest rate will decrease. No, it's rather increasing here. And private investment will increase, leading to increase in aggregate demand. No, because of the rise in interest rate, private investments will rather decrease here. Okay. Next question. Which of the following indicate that country B is capital abundant country? Now capital abundant means firstly your capital labor ratio will be higher I should say, right? Labor capital ratio would be lower, okay, and price of capital will be lower because it is a capital abundant country, and price of capital upon price of labor would be lower, okay, because labor is scarce, so that's why labor is more expensive there, and capital is available in abundance, that's why your price of capital would be lower. So these are the four things that we can list it out without even seeing the statements. Let's move on. Statement A. Total capital upon total labor for B is more than capital labor ratio for A. That is true. That's what we said here, isn't it? So this statement is true. With this, we can strike out 3 and 4. Then capital labor ratio for B is less than capital labor ratio for A. Not at all. Just the opposite of A they are saying. So option 1 can be struck out. So we are left with second option, which is the right answer. Let's just go through other statements also. Price of capital upon price of labor for B is less than price of capital upon price of labor for A. That's true. This is what we've said here, the statement, right? So this is true. Price of capital upon price of labor for B is greater than price of capital for price of labor A. This is false, opposite of C. Okay. Then E. Total labor upon capital ratio for B is greater than capital labor ratio for A. Not at all. We are not going to consider this. Okay. So second is the right answer. Again, we repeat that basics plus strategy will be equal to success in such exams. And that's what we focus in Economics Harbor, that the concepts, the conceptual clarity is a necessity, be it you go for a post-graduation entrance, graduation entrance, PhD, or even UPSC. Concepts should be very, very clear, right? So I hope this was useful, and now these lengthy statement questions won't dread you anymore, right? So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.